Hello, everybody. I love this, by the way. Fantastic. I'm going to actually try not to use any acronyms in this. I'm also going to try not to talk about technology for the whole time. Yeah. So what I'm going to do here is hopefully set the scene for today by talking to you about audience from a relatively kind of high level and giving you a sense of how we think about this here at Google and at DoubleClick. I guess our view is that we're moving into a world where channel device isn't really going to be the key thing. So it's not going to be about search, it's not going to be about display, it's not going to be about mobile, it's not going to be about video. It's going to be about understanding your audience online and then how do you communicate with that audience wherever they may be on the web. So the real challenge for this presentation, I guess, for you as advertisers is, do you have a good grip of who your audience is to then be able to kind of engage with them wherever they are on the web. So just in terms of, just kick it off with this. This is a stat from the IAB. This came out, I think, in March or April, and they're predicting that by 2020, audience targeting is going to be greater than search spend. So it's a big, bold prediction. And obviously, a lot of what's driving that is what you just saw from Sam about the growth of kind of audience buying, the growth of programmatic, which is really driving this kind of this activity. I personally think this is actually wrong. And the reason I think this is wrong is because search is also audience. So we shouldn't think about kind of audience as being something different to search. The reality is that performance media is audience. And that's how it's going to be more and more going forward. So firstly, what do we mean by audience signals? Well, basically we're talking about indications of who people are, so their sex, their age, their demographics, and also their interests based on what they search for, the sites they visit, so on and so forth. And then sort of we can lay onto that things like what devices they're on, their geolocation, and so on and so forth. And obviously this is all Internet 1.0. You get this. The reality is that consumers, because they're on the internet, there's an opportunity for a two-way conversation. So if advertisers are picking up these audience signals, then they can start to then have a conversation with customers based on these audience signals. So in terms of the macro trends, again, I think you will all probably kind of sit through many Google presentations where you see these kinds of stats. But 64% of the UK population own a smartphone. That's estimated to be kind of 75% by the end of this year. Tablet usage has gone from being relatively niche just 1 or 2 years ago to about 30% of the population, again, rising very fast. And we're moving to a stage as well where the main screen in the living room is going to be a connected device that also will allow this kind of two-way communication. And if we go forward even a few more years, we're getting to this world of kind of constant connectivity where effectively everything is digital. And the idea of being connected to the internet on a 24/7 basis is going to be, I think, quite normal, even if it seems relatively sci-fi today. Now, in a world where everything is digital, the amount of audience signals that are being created is growing exponentially. So the amount of data, and everyone's familiar with the term big data, that is being created around audiences is really big. And that's giving you as advertisers an opportunity to gain a much clearer picture of your audience. So that's changing the way that media is planned and bought. In the traditional model, you effectively buy media on the basis of understanding your target audience, who you think they are, and then buying media to try and reach that target audience. And it's effectively a propensity model. You identify the media that's most likely to reach your audience. Obviously, in the audience buying approach, using real-time bidding, you're effectively buying your inventory, certainly in the display space, one impression at a time. And the more insight that you can drive into that buy, obviously, the better that you'll be able to kind of to buy and execute on your media plans. And that ability to buy your media one impression at a time at scale, based on real audience insight, gives you huge precision and drives much higher performance. So, a few slides just to talk about a little bit about technology, but I'm not going to go deep into the technology. Just so that you know, I run the DoubleClick business here in Google, so it's effectively Google's ad technology platform to help advertisers buy media across the web. When we say build a strong foundation, I think the important point is that you need a good technology solution to be able to manage all of this audience data at scale. I'll talk to you about a couple of things that we think are important. So firstly, technology is what powers your access to the right customers, insights, and inventory. I personally think, and it might seem a bit strange for me to say this, but I don't think technology necessarily is the big differentiator. I think the key thing is, what's much more important is your ability to drive insights from the technology that you have. And it's much more about what you do with your audience data than it is about the technology choices that you necessarily make on their own. There are a couple of things, though, that we think are important. The first one is, in this audience world, where you're really focused on your audience across channels and across devices, you want to make sure that you have a single view of your customer, wherever they are on the web. And one of the things that we believe at Google is that being in a single cookie environment, particularly across your ad server, your DSP, there you go, I've used my first acronym, your demand-side platform, ours is called DoubleClick Bid Manager, your ad exchange, but also your search technology as well. Obviously, DoubleClick search is what we have here. We believe that being in a single environment on a unified platform is really, really important, because what that gives you is a single view of your customer across all of your activity. If you're using different technologies across all of those things, then it is harder for you to have a single view of your customer, because you do get cookie loss effectively as you move across different technologies. If you are operating in a single environment and you have this really strong single view of the customer, you have the opportunity to have a much better understanding of customer journey, wherever people are across the web, tracking your audience, centralized reporting, centralized attribution that really gives you that ability to execute in an audience-based world. So therefore, our vision is around a unified platform. One operating system for all activity across the web. That's effectively what we've built here at DoubleClick with the DoubleClick stack. Very much with the user at the heart, because it's all about audience, but the ability to operate across all channels and devices and still have centralized reporting and attribution within the system. So that's all I'm going to talk about in terms of our approach to technology. I think another thing that's important, put your hands up if principally you come from a search background. Oh, most people, most people are kind of not saying no. So therefore, you're mostly display. Is that right? No. OK. TV. I think not. OK. I'm assuming that there's a few people that haven't raised their hands, but my sense from chatting to the guys before the meeting is that most people in the room are principally advertising in search. Some start to do some display, but obviously thinking about maybe doing some more. I think one of the things we think is a big opportunity is the integration between search and display, especially within an audience-based world. And I'm just going to talk a little bit more about how we see that coming together. In many ways, if on a demand-side platform, there you go, didn't say DSP this time, display looks a lot like search. And we find actually here at Google that a lot of the people who work with us now in DoubleClick, on DoubleClick Bid Manager, actually come from a search background. And I think therefore, if you are coming from a search perspective, then actually the future of performance media is very much in an area which you guys are the experts, which I think is exciting, because the future of performance display very much looks like search. Quickly, an example of how this works. Here's Susie. She searches for chocolate truffles, visits your site to look at white chocolate truffles. And what that does, if you've integrated your search and display, is you have the instant opportunity to add her to a list and then to remarket to her on display. Now, interestingly, you can do that within like 3 or 4 minutes. So it's kind of instant ability to close the loop between search and display. And what that allows you to do is to much kind of better understand your audience, and what they want to do before they search for it. So it's really thinking about how you extend search. In this example, if a customer searches for bridal gowns, you can start remarketing that person with bridesmaid dresses maybe a couple of months later before they actually start searching for it. So they don't have to search for it. You can already add them to a list and start remarketing to them on that basis using display. And that's a good, simple way of how you can close the loop between search and display. In this example, Groovy Lamar with his big hair, he bought some chocolates from your website because he visited, because you're using RLSA. Who's using RLSA in the room? That's for marketing list from search ads. This is effectively bringing audience to search. Yeah, we've got a few people that are starting to use this. Because he's visited your site, he's actually visited your site. The next time that he searches on your brand terms, you can actually customize the message to that individual. This is, I think, probably one of the biggest innovations in Google search that we've had for a number of years. And I'm serious about this. It's really, really having some fantastic results.